Good evening. My name is Noah C. Cornelius, and what a weekend it was for App State sports. We have a great episode tonight. Cooper Govoreau will join us tonight to help us recap the demolition of ULM last Saturday and help us preview the upcoming game against Arkansas State. And we will look at what the women's basketball team had to say about their upcoming season. All this and more coming to you now. I'm Noah C. Cornelius alongside Eric Fisher and WASU's Cooper Govoreau. Guys, what a game it was for App. We absolutely destroyed ULM in a cold and rainy game day in Boone. So tell me, what are your thoughts on the game?
You know, I would say it's another day at the office for App State, a team that should have beat ULM, and they did beat ULM 59-28. And, you know, what I saw from that game was a very stellar defensive performance. I know they put up 28 points, but really those were in garbage time, a touchdown in the fourth quarter and 2 touchdowns in the third quarter.
Right.
And Jacob Huseman played in the game. So that kind of tells you a little bit. But the defense really stood out to me. I'm loving the fact that TD Roof, the Indiana transfer, is coming in and getting a lot of play time. He hasn't played very much early in the season, but now he's getting more snaps. He had 9 total tackles, 7 solo tackles, and 1.5 tackles for loss, which really, honestly, that's production from your outside linebacker core that you're already getting from a guy named Trey Cobb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going to Trey Cobb, he was able to get in the turnover thing. We talked about that last week on the episode, how turnovers, they haven't really come that much this season. It felt like, even though the defense was kind of, I feel like, the focal point going into this season, and it finally happened. Trey Cobb had a great game. TD Roof had a great game. But also, Caleb Sperlin had 2 touchdowns, on the offensive side of the ball. That was kind of random. I was watching the game, and, when I saw it score, I didn't even, register that it was Caleb Sperlin. And then the second time, I was like, wait, that's
not right. You see that big number 97?
Yeah. I was like, I don't think that's Cameron Peoples, but I was like, okay. But, yeah, it was a perfect game. The defense was the highlight of this game. I mean, they were dominating. I think it was 35-0 in the first quarter by the end of it. Yeah, it was just, it was everything we wanted in the game and even more.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that App State's defense got no sacks on the day.
Yeah.
We were sitting here looking at this, and we were like, wait a minute, how did they get no sacks on the day? But, still a dominant win. Still, we won. What's all to say? Dominant first half, garbage time second half, 28 points. But we could have come out of there 59-0 for all I care.
And also something to note, I like how 17 carries for both Nate Noel and Cam Peoples.
Yeah.
So they're splitting the backfield carries very well early on in games. And Nate Noel actually had 132 yards. That's 7.8 yards per carry.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Also, Cam Peoples went for 82 yards as well. They both had a touchdown. Cam Peoples had 2. So really, when you think about it, the App State's rushing attack, anybody that App plays from now on has to at least consider 2 running backs, at least, each game, which really can make things very interesting, obviously.
Yeah. Well, guys, speaking of going for yards, something I noticed recently is that the team has started to go for it more on 4th down, a lot more than in past seasons. What do you guys think of this?
Well, I think, honestly, right now, Sean Clark is in a point to where winning football games can come at any cost. And that means if it's 4th and 5 or less, Sean Clark understands that his defense can play pretty well, and they have played pretty well aside from that Louisiana game where we lost 41-13. Aside from that game, our defense has been able to keep teams. It's the bend, don't break mentality where, okay, if we don't get this 4th down here, we can maybe hold them to a field goal or even punt in the best case scenario.
That's right.
And I think, honestly, that's Sean Clark's trust in his defense. And we just talked about the defense and how they've been hitting on all cylinders. Front 7, secondary have been really hitting on all cylinders. But really, when it comes down to it, I think 4th downs are momentum swingers as well. If you get a 4th down on a drive, that is a huge momentum swing, and potentially that could turn into points, whether it be 3 or 7.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah, and you talked about the defense, but on the offensive side of the game, too, you mentioned Nate Noel and Cameron Peoples. When you have 2 people like that in your backfield, you're going to feel confident going for it on 4th down. And I noticed, too, in a lot of the plays, they knew they were already going to go on 4th down on, majority of the drives. They would just run it, or Chase Bryce would scramble, and then it'd be, 4th and 3. Because they were aware and they knew what they were doing. And it was, it was really weird. I was watching the game. I was like, what is it? Why are they doing this? But, they converted 4 out of 6 4th downs in the game. And I like it. It is a confident play calling, but I don't want it to like push us to the edge where they do it like so much, because I felt like they're doing it a lot. But obviously, this was a pretty easy win, as we saw. But when you get into like some tougher competition, possibly later on down the season, I don't think it's going to be Arkansas State next week. But when you get in that later in the season, possibly Sun Belt Championship, I think it'll be good, like you said, for a momentum swinger. But just in like a normal game, like in a tougher game, punt the ball. You got the good defense.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we like to treat this like Madden, go for it on fourth down every time, it's still real life. Things are line, but they're doing a good job of it so far. And so, guys, we beat Coastal 2 weeks ago at the time of filming this, but they're still in the AP Top 25 at the time of filming this. After losing to us 2 weeks ago, what are your thoughts on them still being ranked, and should they still be ranked, and should App be ranked?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and start with this one right now. App, I don't think App should be ranked. There's this interesting conversation. Well, so the poll and the people, the coaches poll and everybody, the AP people, they look at the strength of wins, strength of schedule of the teams you've lost to.
Right.
So there's a lot that goes into this, but really when it comes down to it, we're 3-1 in conference, so we actually have to win out to be in the conference championship because of that loss to Louisiana. So what really happens there is we're already down in the conference. If we were number one in the conference, hadn't lost, maybe that's another question because we're the number one team in the Sun Belt. But I think that loss really to Louisiana, and also the loss to Miami, who is very underperforming in the ACC.
Absolutely.
Even though they are an ACC team, I know they did just upset Pitt, but on any given Saturday, anything can happen. But I think Miami's just not quite that good of a loss. They do say there are good losses. A good loss would be like a loss to Alabama, a loss to Georgia. That's a good loss. But in this case, App doesn't have the good losses to be ranked over a team like, Coastal. Obviously, but I will get into that. I don't think Coastal should be ranked either because they did come on to, they go into the home field versus away advantage. They did come into Boone and lose a game, which is not as weighed heavily as coming, if we went down to Conway and lost. But I just don't think Coastal should be ranked as of right now.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I don't think App should be ranked either. I think the Louisiana loss really showed that. And then Louisiana just got ranked too. They're number 20 from the nation. They just got in the top 25. Coastal, I agree, should not be ranked because you look at it, there's teams like in the same state. NC State, I mean, they're up there. They could possibly be ranked. Pitt got upset, but they could still be in there.
Wake Forest.
Yeah, Wake Forest is top 10 now. And then you got Wisconsin, too. They pulled off a big win, a dominant win against Iowa. So maybe they should be in there. I think all those teams are stronger than App and Coastal. So.
No, I definitely got to agree with you guys there. As much as I bleed black and gold, I can't see them in the top 25, at least not right now. So, all right, stay with us because we will take a look at the new Sun Belt Conference, and we will also preview the upcoming game against Arkansas State.
Life is a journey. We're told that there are mountains and valleys before us. A mountaineer trudges through. Where others see an obstacle, a mountaineer sees an opportunity. A mountaineer climbs tomorrow's mountains today. So what is a mountaineer? A mountaineer is you.
Hola, soy Sandra de Buenos Días Boone. Aunque nuestra comunidad funciona en pequeñas cantidades, nos aseguramos de que la información que necesite le llegue a tiempo. See you at App TV.
What brings us to mountains? Is it the possibilities that await us at the top? Are we looking forward to how the challenge will mold us, transform us? Maybe the mountain is inside all of us. After all, we are mountaineers. Appalachian State University.
Welcome back to the A Game, y'all. I'm Noah C. Cornelius, once again joined alongside by Eric Fisher and Cooper Govoreau. So, guys, big news in the Sun Belt Conference over this last week with potentially 4 new teams joining. What do you guys think about this news?
Well, there's one team that I would like to see come in, and you will mention the other ones, but Old Dominion, the Monarchs out of Norfolk, Virginia. I say come on. I say please, come play with us. Please join the Sun Belt. The more the merrier. But no, for a real reason, the Monarchs haven't had a winning season since 2016. And prior to that, they didn't have a winning season before 2012. So last time they had a winning season, they were 10-3, and they went to the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl. This year they're 2-6. The last year they played, they didn't play last year due to COVID, I guess. But 2019 they had a record of 1-11.
Oh, sorry.
So I think it's pretty safe to say that please come and join us. This year, they played the teams with the likes of Liberty, Buffalo, UTEP, Marshall, Western Kentucky. They've lost all those games. They lost to Liberty 45-17. They lost to Buffalo. They lost to UTEP. They lost to Marshall. So I think it's fair to say that we would like to see Old Dominion. It's not a far drive. Those games would be very doable. It's actually very possible to make those games happen. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And also another team that I really want to see join, and we formed a little rivalry with, and that's Marshall. Marshall has become this team that we played them last year. They beat us. We played them this year. We beat them. A very little, I guess you could say, out-of-conference rivalry. We just don't like them. They don't like us. It's almost kind of like a Georgia Southern type thing, because we don't like Georgia Southern no matter how good or bad we are. And Marshall joining, they're just up in West Virginia. I believe Huntington is where they are. Not very far. That's also very doable. And schedule-wise, it just makes sense. We could definitely make it happen.
Yeah, and with Marshall, we are 9-7 all time against Marshall, 6-2 at home against them, but we're 3-5 on the road. So that'd be really interesting to see in the future. Kind of like these different records. That'll be fun to watch, definitely. But Southern Miss also is one of the teams joining actually, and Southern Miss has a winning record against us. They're 1-0. That's it. But Southern Miss is not that great of a team currently, so when they join, I expect that to change. Hopefully we have a winning record against them. And also JMU is the other mentioned team. JMU is a FCS school, but they're a good school. They're a good program.
They are.
Mike Houston, their former coach, he went to ECU. He's developing that program there as well. But, I mean, they have talent. They've won. And I could see them possibly becoming like the next App State sort of type thing. And that would be great for the Sun Belt. And it would look good to get another young team that just, come up out of nowhere and, start winning and competing pretty quick in the FBS like we did.
All right, guys, so the football team will travel to Arkansas to take on the Red Wolves Saturday. So what should we be expecting in this game?
I mean, Arkansas State's probably, if not one of the worst teams in the Sun Belt, and we are one of the weaker conferences, obviously, in college football. I mean, out of the Power 5. But it's simple. Run the ball. They've allowed an insane amount of yards already from the run defense so far this year. We have 2 elite running backs in Nate Noel and Cameron Peoples. And you mentioned it, how Nate Noel and Cameron Peoples are evenly splitting carries now. We're getting to that point. And Nate Noel averaged 7.8 yards per carry. And I mean, and then Cameron Peoples can go in the red zone and get you a touchdown. It's pretty simple. I mean, Chase Bryce might not even have to throw the ball this game. You can literally run the ball the entire game, and you could, I think, handily win this game. This should not really be a major challenge against Arkansas State.
Realistically, you made a good point. Chase Bryce might not even have to. I mean, Jacob Huseman could probably win this game for App, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
But to touch a little bit on the rushing, so right now, Arkansas State is averaging 2.8 yards per carry on the rushing attack, and they're allowing 7 yards per carry on the opposite side. To counter what you, or to go off what you said. 7.8 yards per carry. Our tandem backfield also, they're scoring 27.5 points per game, but there's an issue. They're letting their opponents score 43 points per game.
Yeah, it's not great.
They have a 1-7 record, and they're 0-4 in the Sun Belt. They pretty much got beaten up by everybody. They went to Washington down in September. They lost 52-3. They lost to Georgia Southern, and by all means, this is an off year for Georgia Southern by their standards. 59-33 was the score of that game. They lost to Coastal, who's obviously a ranked team as well, 52-20. And App is kind of on that same level. App has beat Coastal, so we know that. To me, it's a very unfair matchup. There's not. Their rushing attack has gained 915 yards this year, Arkansas State, and they've allowed opponents about 2,400 yards total. They're not on par with the rest of the Sun Belt, and it's going to show when App plays them. So I don't. There's not really much to game plan for if you're App. Just another day at the office. Just punch the football, and you might have to do a few passes, but I don't see us throwing for over 200 yards because it just won't be necessary.
Yeah, and like you mentioned with the rushing yards they allowed, I'm pretty sure it's maybe second in the FBS for most, but it's up there. I mean, this just shows. They have a bad run defense. We have a good run offense. Just keep it simple. No need to go super creative in this game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one thing I want to touch on is that the weirdest score I saw, because you were talking about previous scores. They lost by one. They lost by 1 point to Louisiana. That's something to keep an eye out for. Is that did they ramp up the intensity for that game? Could they ramp up the intensity versus App State? But like you said, either way, just another day at the office. Punch the ball in, throw it a few times. Don't let them get any inspiration. Just clap them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those games. And App has done this in the past. App has played down to teams worse than them.
Yeah, they
We've
have.
seen that. And if App just comes out and acts like the alpha dog, like they are, like just put their foot down on the neck of the Red Wolves, it really shouldn't last very long. I think we're gonna see a lighter load for Nate Noel and Cam Peoples as the game goes on, because game scripts change when teams get up. And I think from early on, if App plays App football, it shouldn't last very long. And kind of like you said, there is one weird score, Louisiana, Arkansas State. But then they turn around this Saturday and lost to South Alabama 31-13. So a little bit of a wishy-washy program, but I think the overall consensus here is that it's not going to be a good one for Arkansas State this weekend.
Yeah, and quickly touching upon this game, who are the plays that we should be looking out for, and what are your score predictions?
Go ahead.
Okay, for Arkansas State, I'm going with Jaden Harris, linebacker. He posted 12 total tackles in their loss against South Alabama, also 0.5 sacks and 1.5 tackles for loss. So they have talent in that defensive end, but we're mentioning it. I'm going with Nate Noel. He's going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. It's pretty obvious here. So I think these two are definitely going to meet each other on the football field a bit. And it'll definitely, I think Jaden Harris is going to have probably his best game of his life for them to have like a pretty good chance. But for the score prediction, I'm not going too high for App State, but 31-6. Defense shuts them almost down completely.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it, defense here. I'm going to just go ahead and highlight the entire front seven for App, but more specifically that front three, because we run 3 down linemen. It's going to be Jordan Earl, Demetrius Taylor, and Caleb Sperlin. Those 3 defensive linemen will be in Jamie Blackman's backfield the entire game, I believe. They don't have a rushing game, which tells me if you don't have a rushing game, you don't have a very good offensive line.
Yeah.
And if you're 1-7, you're not passing the ball because you're not winning games. So there's going to be backfield pressure on Blackman the entire game. I think the only way to get out of that is to try to establish the run if you're Arkansas State, and try to get Johnny Lang, their running back, try to get him active, and maybe get some screens out of the backfield. Do something quick. You got to get the ball out quick if you're playing a very quick defense. But yeah, those impact players for me on the defensive side for App probably will be too much for Johnny Lang in that rushing attack or whatever they're going to try to do in that backfield.
Yeah, and usually I would pick like a player to look out for as well, but I just look at Arkansas State, I'm just not concerned. As cocky as that might sound, and hopefully I don't come back to this episode and say, what was I thinking? I'm not really scared of anybody. But score prediction, I'm not afraid to say it, 41-7. We're going to clap them, stop them.
Yeah, score prediction. I forgot my score prediction. I would probably say probably 45-7 or 45-10. Maybe they get a touchdown and field goal. But that's
I
it.
can see that.
Yeah.
Hopefully we give them a 0 or maybe a 3.
That's very
no
possible.
touchdowns. I don't want
Shutout
any
would be nice
touchdowns.
to see.
Not out of the realm of possibility.
Not out of the realm of
Yeah,
possibility.
shutout
right?
would be fun.
All right, well, thank you, Eric and Cooper, for joining me. And up next, how did the other App State teams perform over the weekend? I'll let you know after the break.
Live from the Beasley Media Complex in Boone, this is the Appalachian Weekly News. I'm Mia Mendez.
And I'm Shannon Pendleton.
In other news, Eggers Residence Hall, one of 2 all-female identifying dorms here on campus, has recently had a peeping Tom. University Housing received a report of a phone in a vent located in the bathroom in the 3rd floor of Eggers. University Housing was able to link an employee to the found phone. 49-year-old Jerry Ann McGlamory of Wilkes County has been arrested by App State Police and has not been back to campus since the 15th. University Communication has addressed the situation and made it so nothing can go in or out of those vents.
So it made me really uneasy hearing it for the first time. We got a message, our RA just let us know. And I just feel for the girls that were heavily involved, and I just hope the proper actions can take place for us to have ensured safety.
Back in February, Frank Dale Cromwell of Boone pleaded guilty to 1 count of felony production of child pornography. On October 7th, Cromwell was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Cromwell served as an athletic training intern at Watauga High School during the 2017-2018 school year. He was also employed by Wilkes County Schools as a wrestling coach during the 2018-2019 wrestling season. season. According to plea documents, between December 2018 and February 2019, Cromwell used Snapchat to convince multiple minor victims that Cromwell was a female, and he used it to communicate with the minors. Along with his sentencing, he was also ordered to pay a special assessment fee in the amount of $55,100, serve a lifetime of supervised release, and to register as a sex offender after he is released from prison. That's our report for this week. I'm Shannon Pendleton.
And I'm Mia Mendez.
For all of us at the Appalachian Weekly News, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
What a week it was last week for App State sports. We have a load of big wins across several sports. With their regular season over, both the men's and women's cross-country teams competed in the Sun Belt Championship meet over the weekend, and both teams ran well and each took second in their respective races. The men's team ran their 5K well and finished with 58 points, only falling behind Arkansas State, who took the team title. Oliver Wilson took first for the Mountaineers and 7th overall with a time of 24 minutes and 54 seconds, earning him a second-team all-conference title, as well as Ryan Brown, who finished 10th overall with a time of 25 minutes and 3 seconds. 3 more Mountaineers earned third-team all-conference honors as Ryan Tusher, Daniel Smith, and Isaac Benz finished 12th, 14th, and 15th respectively as they rounded out App State's top 5 to each finish under 25 minutes and 30 seconds. The women's team also had a strong showing, finishing their 5K with 73 points, but also falling to Arkansas State. Izzy Evely led App State to the finish line, coming in second overall with a time of 17 minutes and 16 seconds, making her the only Mountaineer to earn first-team all-conference honors this season. Carson Kane and Jasmine Donahue finished next for the Mountaineers at 13th and 15th overall, and each received third-team all-conference honors. The black and gold was rounded out by Kristen Towell and Lila Peters, who finished 21st and 22nd, only 1 second apart from each other. Both teams will not have any competitions next week, but will travel to Louisville, Kentucky to take part in the NCAA Southeast Region Championship meet on November 13th. To finish off their regular season, the Mountaineer field hockey team traveled to Mount Pleasant, Michigan to face the Central Michigan Chippewas on both Friday and Saturday. The team split the weekend to win their first game 3-1, but lost their second 1-2. The team started the weekend strong and took an early lead after a corner play resulted in a goal by Rachel Flag 7 minutes into the game. Stair Molkenboer struck second for the Mountaineers and widened the gap to 2 goals in the second quarter. Leah Hurwitz finished off the Chippewas for the day, scoring her first career goal for the Mountaineers. App State outshot Central Michigan 10-7, with the Mountaineers having 7 shots on goal to the Chippewas 3. Central Michigan rallied in the second game and paid back the Mountaineers to win 2-1 and split the weekend. Senior defender Brenna Schoenbachler played an aggressive game all around and scored her first career goal for the Mountaineers off of a corner play in the first, and even had a defensive save in the second half. Central Michigan scored both of their goals in the first half of the game, but the Mountaineer defense held the Chippewas scoreless for the duration of the second half. 6 of the 8 App State shots were on goal for an impressive 75% shot on goal percentage, the highest App State has seen all season. The Mountaineers are now done with the regular season and finished 7-8 overall and 3-4 in MAC play. Unfortunately, the team will not be playing in the MAC Conference Championship Tournament this season. The volleyball team had a rough weekend, traveling down to Alabama to play South Alabama and Troy this past weekend, losing both games in straight sets. Against South Alabama, the Mountaineers struggled to get their footing, having trouble even staying with the Jaguars. Victoria Wolfram led the team in kills, having a match high of 12, along with 6 digs and 2 block assists. Against Troy, the team played well, but still couldn't take a set from their opponent. For the second night in a row, Victoria Wolfram led the team's offense and finished with 11 kills. While on defense, Emma Riley recorded 7 digs, and Sam Binkley had 14 blocks. The team is now on a 4-loss streak and will be playing both Georgia State and Georgia Southern in hopes of breaking it next week. When we come back, we will take a look at what the players and coaches of the women's basketball team had to say about their upcoming season.
played App State, Sundays at 9.
Get out of here. Just go.
App TV's original gaming news channel Pixel Peak is back for more great content. We are very excited to be kicking off our 7th season here and continuing news on the gaming industry. Each week, 4 hand-selected gaming-related news stories will be covered along with an analysis segment of either Xbox, PlayStation, PC, or Nintendo, and finally is wrapped up with a game review. If you are interested in gaming news, be sure to watch us at apptv.com or any of these channels every Wednesday. Thank you for stopping by, and we hope to see you here on Pixel Peak.
Welcome back, folks. The women's basketball team will tip off next week against Lees McRae here in Boone. Let's take a look to see what the team had to say about their upcoming season.
With a large turnover in the on-court talent, how do you see your style of play taking place this year? What do you want to put on the floor? You know, some years you can play ideally the way you want to play. Sometimes you play to the skills you've got. Where do you think you are going into this season?
Yeah, it's great. I knew I was getting ready, and I was hoping you were here to talk about it, because today in our practice meeting, we're like at practice, 13, and we're talking about pressing, and I haven't had that type of roster. So just to backtrack on the offensive end, last year we tried to trend a little bit towards positionless. We didn't quite make the jump. We played fast. We set a lot of ball screens. Now we're even a little bit further along than we were last year, so we kept our same offensive philosophy. We want layups, we want free throws, and we want threes. And then defensively is where I think we're going to make the most jump, because we're so much more athletic. We've got more size. So I think we're going to be able to be a little bit more disruptive on the defensive end, which is really, really exciting for our program. So right now, we're pretty deep. We'll see how that all shakes out here with some couple close scrimmages, but I think our personnel really aligns with our style of play. This team is way more vocal than any team that I've had. You bring up Faith, and I talked about Zeta. They're the same when it comes to energy. And then we've got a couple other players as well. So you add that to our practice, and it has just changed the whole dynamic. One of our core values that we talk about is joy. And if you walk in the gym and you watch this team interact with each other, you watch them on the court, off the court, you feel the joy and you feel the energy. So it's really exciting that now, this season, we're going to have the opportunity to show that energy off to our fans.
Every new year is a new type of a team. As you all think about the kind of team you want to be on the floor and the kind of team that you want App State fans to see on the floor, what would you say that personality is? How do you want to be represented in the minds of your fan base?
I would say just the joy that we have of being together and playing with each other and playing for App State Nation. We want everyone to see that we're not just here because it's a job, but we really enjoy being here, and that we're doing it together. It's all of us together, fighting for this one goal, and that's to bring home a championship to Boone. And just that aspect, making sure everyone knows the joy aspect, being able to have fans this upcoming season is going to be so important to us, because we are people persons. Something like that. We enjoy people, and so having people there, that just fueling us, the joy that it brings us. That's really our personality.
I'm gonna say, to add to that, joy is a big, huge factor of who we are. But having that joy and having this consistency that we try to work on every day, we want the fans, the other teams, to be intimidated just by the fact that we're so together on everything. We have a bond that no other team has, and I think that's just great about the people that come in, is that we always connect somehow, some way. There's never any person who's left out or group that's left out. So I think that's what's really special about our team, and what can take us from doing okay to great during our games. So.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's show. I'm Noah C. Cornelius, and be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The A-Game Sports. You can also catch every episode of The A-Game on demand on YouTube at App TV. We will see you next week on The A-Game.